the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We're ready for item 3.03. My superintendent comments. So, Jason, we'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Towers. I am going to take my mask off so people can hear me. It's great to see you all. We have a jam-packed room tonight. This is awesome. So welcome to tonight's Board of Education meeting. We're glad you have joined us. And on behalf of myself and Chris Bennett in the back, we believe people can hear and see us. Right, Chris?
I believe so.
All right. We know that has been a struggle. So if you're at home, we're glad you're with us tonight. We are about 3 weeks. I guess it's our third week into school. We feel like it's our best year ever so far, and we believe in every student as we move forward with this great year. I just wanted to make sure that we paid our respects for just a second. I want to read this paragraph to you all. Yesterday, along with many others in our community and county, we honored Marine Lance Corporal Schmitz as his remains were escorted to Bowie Funeral Home at Cave Springs. As we move forward, may we remember Lance Corporal Schmitz and all service women and men that have faithfully served our nation and paid the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom. As 9/11 approaches, let's also remember and honor the heroes of that horrific date in our nation's history as well. Our thoughts and prayers are with the families who have lost loved ones to war and acts of terror. And on a special note, or just a side note, Lance Corporal Schmitz actually lived 4 doors down from me for several years. And I can just tell you, a family and just things that I could see him do with his brothers and sisters and the way he was as a brother. He actually graduated with my son at Fort Zumwalt South. You could tell he was a great young man and came from a great family. So rest in peace, Lance Corporal. Fall sports and activities season has started. We have a lot of action going on. I actually got out there right before the meeting, and so did a couple of our board members as well. But the Warriors and Pirates actually squared off in tennis today and also in softball today, and that's always fun because when I go to those games, I can't lose. I get to watch both teams play and hopefully see some great games. So it's awesome to see. We're back at it. We got kids at games. We're right back to almost normal outside activities, and obviously inside for volleyball. We are masked up in the stands, but it's great to have our sports and activities back to full capacity this year. Our latest podcast episode was released the first Friday of the school year. Hopefully you got a chance to catch that. And it just rundown about policies and how we started school and different things. So hopefully you can, like I said, catch that. And more episodes are on the way, so please plan to stay tuned for that. Tonight we will have a COVID update and review for you, as well as a professional plan review, so we're looking forward to a great evening tonight. And I hope everyone has had a wonderful start to the school year. We are well on our way to making 21-22 our best year yet, and together. And remember, we do this together. We may have different opinions on different policies and different decisions, but we stay together, we stay united. We will definitely reach, teach, and empower all our students to be their best, and that's what we're all about. That's our why. So, thank you, Dr. Towers.
Thank you, and that's so true. Item 3.04, do we have any board communication? No. Okay. I'm sorry. Item 3.05, public recognition. We are so happy tonight to honor and to recognize our health clerks and our school nurses, and many of them, most of them are here this evening. Julie, are you handling this?
Yes, ma'am. Is that me? Yes, sorry, I was trying to put it on. All right. Can I just stay here since I won't be in your guys' space then? All right. So I typed out my comments today just to make sure I got everything out that I wanted to say. But good evening. I'm very excited to be able to spend a few minutes tonight recognizing our school nurses and our health clerks. While I have been supervising the health program in our schools the last 7 years, it's only been the last year and a half that I've really gotten to work with these ladies so closely. Sometimes they probably figure way too closely. While the board and the community recognize that all of our employees have gone above and beyond to help keep our students in school and safe, I want to recognize all of the extra responsibilities and duties that our nurses and health clerks have had and performed in order to make sure that our schools have stayed as COVID-free as possible. So just some of the extra things that they've taken on, and I lost my list. It was probably about twice as long. But they've done a great job training students in hand washing, doing morning checks with students, contact tracing, and reporting contacts to the health department. Sorry about that. You guys can probably hear me better now. Sending letters to families regarding close contacts and positive cases in schools. Following up with parents regarding symptoms, health department guidelines, quarantine procedures, returning to school, how are they feeling, calling on the weekends, calling at night, all hours of the day, emails. They actually were one of the only nurse groups we were one of the only districts in the area last year to start testing students and staff in our buildings. They report those testing results to the state and the health department via the school district. They helped plan and work at the points of distribution that we originally were going to set up for in our school district. But then when it changed the family arena, they quickly, changed their, helped us change procedures and went over and visited with us to just make sure that they would run nice and smoothly. Many of them worked multiple pods. We had a lot of our nurses signed up to work at the buildings in other districts that were hosting pods, that they signed up for every single health department pod that was at the family arena weekend after weekend. And then when we actually had one of our retired principals kind of set up a special time for us to get vaccinations early on, they also worked in that clinic as well. They did everything they could to make sure that as many of our staff as wanted to be vaccinated could be vaccinated early on. While we didn't always agree on things right away along the way, we were always able to come together and meet to discuss our differences. We would discuss the pros and cons for everything we did for each issue, and then come together and always made a decision which was centered around keeping our students and staff safe. For instance, when the Binax Now testing, the antigen testing, came around as an idea last September or October, the first thing that happened was our across the river, our nurses really got together and sent the superintendents in that area a letter saying all the reasons why they couldn't do the testing, and our nurses came together and decided that we would at least give it a shot. So we kind of started trying to pilot it, and I want to say it was only a few days in, it was like, well, this isn't so bad. Like every school was testing kids, was testing not families, but staff members. So while all the other districts in the area decided not to do the testing, we started. We met to talk about what it would look like, how it could help us, and what the expectations were. So they were willing to put our community's needs above their own, and this has helped out our district in so many ways. One, our students and staff didn't have to find appointments and take time off to find places to get testing. They also didn't have to wait for the results from 2 days of results from testing at other locations. With that testing, we were able to get results in 15 minutes. They also had protocol, if you were being tested, you had to stay home until the results were in. So by having those tests in our school, it allowed for quick response time that helped cut down time out of school for students and staff. It also allowed us to identify positive cases quicker, as well as those that were contacts of those cases. It allowed us to send students and staff members home sooner so that the virus didn't spread in our schools. So I attribute their prompt contact tracing, their reporting, their testing for the low number of cases that we experienced last year and so far this year. They continue to support these efforts even when the other districts around us are loosening the reins on masks and contact tracing and seeing numbers skyrocket in their school. It would be so easy for them to say, enough's enough, let's go back. But I believe tonight they're going to be talking to you guys about, their recommendations moving forward as well. So they know that it's important and are willing to put in all this extra work if it means that it keeps our kids and our community safe. So I am very proud to work for a district that's doing the best they can to protect all of our students and staff. I'm even prouder to work with this group of ladies that has supported their district students and colleagues, and even when it wasn't easy. I'm grateful that they have not only supported me during this crazy time, but have communicated their concerns and fears as well. With all the good and bad situations and conversations, we've grown together as a team to support and trust each other at a very difficult time. I know that our district could not have made it throughout this pandemic without their knowledge, their expertise, their compassion, their empathy, and hard work of our school nurses and health clerks. We're very lucky to have them, and although I would never be able to repay them for their hard work and dedication, even though some of them had asked for steak dinners and lobsters, which I can't afford, sorry. I hope they know how much I admire them and love them for the work they do every day for the St. Charles School District. So I just wanted to thank you all. And I know this isn't the same as steak and lobster, but we want to recognize you and give you guys a certificate. So Mary Leonard is our early childhood nurse. She was not able to make it tonight. Kaylee, you're here, right? No, she's not here either. Lauren Farron. Are we going to do a picture? Yes? Can they come in the middle maybe? Yeah, that's fine. It'll be less than 15 minutes. I'll read fast. Do you want to maybe have us? Yeah, there we go. Laura Anderson. Judy Brink, who's also our lead nurse. Thank you. Lauren Coomer. Kathy Burke. She's not here. Okay. Brandy Can. Kim Stahlschmidt. Casey McKinney. Mary Hani could not make it tonight. She is our nurse at West. Chris Kelch. She's not here either. Jill Meyer. And our health clerks ran from building to building to help support everybody else last year, too. So they are, and Becky Kiles. Thank you so much. All right. So maybe one more round of applause for these guys. They're some of the hardest working people around.
As Chris takes their picture, typically we would have you guys go around and shake hands, but we won't do that tonight. But again, on behalf of myself, our CO team, you getting in there? Yeah. Thank you, guys. Ladies, real quick, I just want to say again, on behalf of myself, our CO team, and our Board of Education, you simply put above and beyond. Mm-hmm. Above and beyond. And Julie's right. Our staff, all of our staff, we had to do this together. But if it wasn't for what you all did, we would not have gotten through that year. And I want you, and I think you've heard that from me. We've been in meetings, powwow meetings together too, right? But I want to make sure everybody heard that again. Thank you so much. Let's give them another round of applause. Thank you, ladies.
It's construction paper.
It seems that if we're going to have a heart attack board, now is the moment to have it.
Yeah. We're in good hands right now.
Yes, we're in good hands. Yeah.
I'm ready to basically say it's time to have a heart attack since they're all here.
Yeah.
The statement of the night.
Yeah. Right, item 3.06 is time for our audience comments. Marita, you have a
Yes.
statement to read.
All regular and special meetings of the board shall be open to the public. Since the board desires to be good listener and be responsive to the community, persons dealing or desiring to address the board may do so during this time so allotted on the agenda and according to established procedures. During the audience portion of each board meeting, patrons are invited by the president to speak for or against any proposal on the tentative agenda are on any, I just had a, whatchamadiddle, hang on here. Or on any other school concern. The individual is asked to identify him or herself, limit comments to a few minutes, and avoid discussing personalities. The president reserves the right to limit the number of presentations and/or length of comments. At the discretion of the president, patrons may be recognized at other times during the board meeting. The board is very interested in audience comments. According to board policy, members cannot respond during the actual meeting. The board will listen to and research all audience comments. If necessary, additional follow-up will occur through district administrators.
Okay, thank you. We have 3 audience comments that have been submitted electronically. So do you want to go ahead and
Yes, this is from Kimberly Siemens, mother of Lincoln and Jefferson students. Dear St. Charles School District board members, I want to voice my opinion in favor of keeping the mask requirement in our schools, especially with the highly infectious Delta variant circulating. Removing masks indoors could be a recipe for disaster. After all, every child deserves the right to an education, and it must be a safe one. Thank you all for your team and the school staff have done to protect the students. Please continue with masking for all students and staff. Ms. Elena Shendova, a parent, she writes, good afternoon. I ask that you please take in consideration a few points. First, I am calling on the board members and attendees at the last meeting who couldn't wait to rip their masks off of their faces after they thought the live stream was over. There was no sound most of the time, but the video was fine. St. Charles School District parents, I suggest you watch it on YouTube. A couple of the members took their masks off and went around the room to talk to others and didn't even socially distance. Such a hypocrisy. You expect little children to wear a mask for 7 to 8 hours a day, but you can't wear yours for 2 hours? Second point. Only a medical doctor can prescribe a medical device such as a mask. Members of the board are not medical doctors, except one, as far as I know. There is no federal or state law, this is number 3, mandating masks. CDC and local health authorities can only make recommendations. The school administration cannot be forced to accept these recommendations. 4, the board has a responsibility towards the kids in the district, not the community. The people in the community have to protect themselves. Why are we sacrificing the health and well-being of our kids to protect adults out there who are not careful themselves? Excuse me. Why are we sacrificing the health and well-being of our kids to protect adults out there who are not careful themselves? Just go to Walmart or Target or walk down Main Street in old St. Charles, and you will see only a few masked people. 5, if the board is concerned about the health of our kids, then look no further than the school cafeteria. The food that is offered there is unacceptable. Cinnamon rolls and Pop-Tarts for breakfast, cereal, goldfish, chicken nuggets, nachos for lunch are not healthy, nutritious foods for growing bodies. Absolutely. These foods cause diabetes, heart disease, obesity, digestive issues, and other lifelong health problems. And guess who dies of COVID-19? The people, including kids, who have those exact diseases. 6, people, think for yourself. You don't have to follow blindly the experts. Healthy kids don't drop dead from COVID. Children that end up in the hospital have some of the above-mentioned comorbidities or cancer, or some other underlying issue. Such vulnerable kids should do virtual school. We can't keep risking the healthy kids' mental and physical well-being for the few who are vulnerable. That is just wrong. We, the parents, number 7, know what's best for our children. We care the most about our children, and that's why we should decide what medical treatment they should get and how to protect their health. And for some of us, the mask is not the answer. If we don't stop this insanity now, how far are we going to take this? A year? 2? Are you going to mandate masks every flu season? Forever? Parents, wake up. Just a few months from now, we are going to be here debating the COVID vaccines mandate. If COVID vaccines get mandated in school, a lot of us will pull our kids from the public schools. I hope you make the right decision. Mandate is not it. Have a good night. And then the last letter is from Amy Leatherby. Dear Board of Education, good evening. My name is Amy Leatherberry, and I am the mother of 2 students at Lincoln Elementary. I would like to begin by commenting district staff for a wonderful beginning of the school year. We feel grateful to be part of this school district. Undoubtedly, you will have many statistics presented tonight on masking, but I want to share a personal story to give life to the numbers. Unfortunately, on the very first day of school, my first grader was exposed to COVID-positive classmates. Because both students were masked, my son was able to enter a modified quarantine, which allowed him to continue to attend school in a mask as we monitored him for any symptoms. Because of masks, my son got to bond with his class and learn important procedures during those critical first weeks. Because of masks, my husband and I did not have to worry about who would have to miss work to supervise an at-home quarantine. On the advice of our pediatrician, we tested my son on day 7 after exposure. Because of masks, he tested negative and was able to enjoy a small Labor Day barbecue with his fully vaccinated family. Masks work. They keep kids in school. They keep kids safe and healthy and well. The data supports this fact, and so do countless stories from families like mine. Please continue to support masking while we are in a time of high community spread. Best.
Thank you. Now, we have several people in the audience who've submitted their participation cards. Brendan Kearn, you're up.
Good evening. I'd like to start by thanking our nurses who are in attendance for all of their hard work over the past 2 years, taking care of all of us and keeping us safe. My name is Brendan Kearns, president of SCEA. Our teachers are working busily as the year begins, with more crowded classrooms being greeted with excitement and the realizations of the new challenges that lie ahead. Tonight, the board will take 2 votes which will have a significant impact on teachers' working ability. First, we will vote on whether to extend our mask mandate. While feelings on mandatory masks run the gamut, the data is hard to argue. In the time we have been in school, neighboring districts with less stringent or non-existent mandates have quarantined hundreds of students, while our own district has quarantined only 3. Masks have enabled us to keep students learning their best by learning in person. Next, we hope that you will approve the 5 COVID leave days that Central Office is proposing. While we greatly appreciate Central Office's consideration on this matter, Upon speaking to our nurses, we believe it is best to extend this leave to 7 or even 10 days. While SCEA members are working hard to stay as safe as possible, reality often has other plans. This quarantine time will allow a sick staff member to recover or to take care of a quarantined child too young to be vaccinated. We hope you will take this into consideration on your vote this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Often you'll see us removing our mask when we're talking at the mic, only because one of the things we realized during last month's difficulties is that wearing a mask while we're talking in the mic inhibited a clear understanding. So we did hear from patrons on helping them to hear what we're saying better. So we try to stay 6 feet apart, but some of us will remove our masks from time to time in order for you to hear us clearly. Our next participant is Lauren Farron.
Hello, my name is Lauren Farron, and I am the school nurse at Coverdell Elementary School. Today, I am speaking on behalf of every nurse in our district. We first want to thank you, board members, and Dr. Seifert for your support and careful consideration throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. Your attempts to make us feel safe do not go unnoticed, and we fully support your decision to require masks for all staff and students. Our hope is that our Board of Education, staff members, parents, and the surrounding community can see that our district nurses stand as a united front regarding the mask requirements currently in place. With COVID-19 cases on the rise and the county's modified quarantine guidelines in place, we feel that masks are an absolute necessity at this time. We support the utilization of county and district data on a monthly basis to determine changes in the mask mandate. If the priority is health and safety, masks are necessary. If the priority is keeping our children in school and our parents at work, masks are also necessary. We are grateful for your willingness to deviate from the decisions of our surrounding districts, and again, we thank you so much for doing your part in keeping us safe.
Thank you. Our next audience participation is Chris House.
Test, 1, 2.
Good evening. My name is Chris House. I'm a parent of 3 kids in the school district right now, ages 8, 10, and 13. I just to start off, I wanted to commend the board for being on the leading edge of returning back to in-person schooling. I know that a lot of school districts around the country even are still in the virtual, so I commend you on that. Obviously, I think that's what's best for our children, especially mine. I just wanted to raise a couple concerns that I had as a parent. Right now, it has, as far as the mask mandates and the vaccine, the whispers of the vaccine mandates. And I've heard a couple of things about the data shows and statistics show. I have the most recent one that I was seeing was in the New York Times, where they were actually saying that the school district that was requiring the mask mandate was showing improvement and no increased causes or cases of COVID-19. The problem that we're seeing with a lot of these statistics and data and studies is that it's kind of the devil's in the detail. There's a lot. That one in particular, they failed to cite a control group. They never compared one with mandates with one without mandates. So I want to be real careful that we're actually looking at the data and the underlying data and the studies beneath what the actual headlines are saying, what the actual clickbait on the internet is showing a lot of people that I think there's a lot of lying by statistics going on out there. Like I said, I'm not seeing a lot of the data that is showing the support for this mandate. Thankfully, the virus does not pose a deadly threat to our children, and the adults can get vaccinated, and that dramatically reduces their ability to have any sort of severe reactions to this virus. I understand the abundance of caution, but my question is, at what cost? Right now, we're seeing a spike in RSV, off-season spike in RSV, so we have to question whether these mask mandates and all the preventative actions that we are taking, is that taking some sort of adverse effect to our children's immune system? Schools have always been kind of a cesspool, a petri dish of germs. We all know this. Kids are sticky. We understand this. So I'm just curious, are we making decisions based out of fear, or are we making decisions based out of logic and what we're seeing? And what we're seeing right now, based on CDC guidance, is that our children have more threat of dying from pneumonia than they do of COVID. So one of my biggest concerns right now is that I'm not seeing any sort of limiting principles to a lot of these decisions, a lot of these mandates that are being made. I understand at the beginning of the COVID that we were very concerned about it. We had models showing that 2.5 million Americans were going to die. I understand that. So abundance of caution was warranted. But at this point, we're seeing, since the start of COVID, just over 400 children have died of this. Any child's death is tragic. My heart breaks for that parent. We have to understand that we don't do that for anything else. We don't close down schools for pneumonia. We don't close down schools for the flu. And we're seeing consistent numbers as far as that's concerned. Another concern had to do with the learning process. Teachers are required to wear those masks. And how's that affecting?
Can you finish up? The
Yes,
time
yeah.
limit is only.
So I was just, how's that affecting our learning as far as facial cues, speech development, and understanding instructions that are giving to our children? I know that's been a concern with my children. And I guess, again, that limiting principle is the goal, zero COVID, and is that realistic? So I'm asking the board to respect the decision of parents, that decision that belongs to us, and remove the mandate and make it optional for any parent that so desires. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. I'm sorry, it's not Bill. I was looking at the next part. It's Chris. Yeah, I gave you the wrong name. Okay. Thank you. Yes, there is a 3-minute time limit on participation. Roland Moore.
Hello, everyone. My name is Roland Moore. I'm actually a junior at St. Charles West. I play on the baseball team. I'm a member of the marching band, a National Honor Society, and involved in other areas of the school. I'm here to talk to all of you board members about considering overturning the mask mandate as well. I'd like to talk about 3 different reasons why we can overturn this mask mandate and then why you guys can consider this. I'd like to discuss the impacts on relationships it has, and the impact it has on my learning and my parents' role. Wearing a mask causes challenges in relationships. It stopped me from getting to know a lot of people better because the masks are causing a barrier between us. I've been able to talk to people with the mask on, but it stops me from making long-lasting relationships. We are a smaller school, which in the past has allowed better relationships to develop between the schools and students. Certain events like basketball and football games. Those are big events that allow you to create fun memories and school spirit. Last year, COVID protocols and social distancing kept me from attending those events. Now, we have to strive really hard to rebuild that school spirit. Wearing masks and social distancing protocols are also impacting my learning. For example, last year I was in chemistry, and because it was too difficult to clean the tables and lab equipment, we couldn't do any labs. Labs are the main part of chemistry, and boring paperwork isn't fun. We can only set a limited number of people to a table. Sometimes it's hard to hear my teachers, which also makes that challenging. And all these things have impacted my learning. I am 16 years old, and my parents make a lot of big decisions for me, like trusting me to have independence while driving and to make safe choices. They also make my healthcare decisions for me. I asked my mom if I should stay home when I'm not feeling well. My parents help me make healthy choices. Please let my parents make the choice on whether I should wear a mask. Please let the other parents make decisions on whether their kid should wear a mask or not. And I understand that the county health department has set quarantine guidelines for the schools. I know that the mask mandate is put in place is to help the school to not quarantine a large amount of students. I know we all want to be in school. but this could be an opportunity to revisit and change those guidelines as well with the county health department. Thank you for listening to my reasons and why you should consider overturning the mask mandate, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to be here. And I please ask you guys to set a great example on how we should represent our school. Thank you.
Thank you, Roland. Caleb Mertz?
Hello, I'm Caleb Mertz, and I'm a junior at St. Charles High School. I also play baseball, and I'm also in the marching band. Now, I wanted to speak to you tonight about removing the mask mandates in the district. I'd like to share my feelings and how the mask mandates are affecting me and my peers. Now, I went into the school year looking on the bright side. I believed that this was going to be my best school year ever, as I know you all want it to be. But the farther along that I go, I realized that it's not the best year, it's simply just an experiment. It's an experiment on me. It's an experiment to see just how long I can go before breaking down. It's an experiment to see just how disconnected I can feel while still functioning. It's an experiment to see just how much I can learn on my own while not building those vital connections with my peers and teachers. I don't feel like a junior at St. Charles High School. I feel like a rat running in a maze full of people where I can't see their faces. I can't even see their smiles. I can't see if they're happy or sad, which makes me feel disconnected from everyone else. I feel like I'm in my own bubble while someone is brushing shoulders with me in the hallway. When am I going to be able to feel like a high schooler again? When am I going to be able to see the faces of my classmates again? When am I going to be able to feel like a normal human? If I'm feeling this bad, I can't imagine how my peers are feeling. I know a freshman who just moved into the district this year, and I can't imagine what he's going through. I can't imagine what it's like going through a new school district, not knowing what any of your classmates look like. I can't imagine how he's supposed to make friends. How is he supposed to make those connections with people he can't even see? I want all of you to remember back to your first day of high school. Remember how difficult it was to make friends, to navigate the social dynamics in high school. Now, I want you to imagine how difficult that would be while not being able to see their faces. Well, that's actually a reality. This is what me and my classmates have to deal with every single day, whole day. So I beg you to take away those mask mandates that are hurting the connections between students and teachers. Please give us the opportunity to see the smiles of our classmates. Please give us the information on what data will push us past that threshold that will free us from the mask mandates and allow us to go back to living a normal life. Please let me have the best school year ever by simply removing the mask mandate. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Caleb. Thank all of you for sharing your thoughts. The board listens, and although we don't make comments, we certainly do hear all of your thoughts. We're ready for item 3.07. Do we have a motion to amend or adopt the agenda? Is there a second? All those in favor? All right. The consent agenda, for efficiency, the school board utilizes a consent agenda. Items placed on the consent agenda are routine in nature or are among the many decisions that the board has already determined are in the domain of the administration. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, the consent agenda is approved. Moving on to item. Oh, I'm sorry, I always forget to do that. At this point in the meeting, we give all of you a chance to escape. And we'll take just a short break. If you want to stay for the rest of the business part of the meeting, we'd love to have you, but many of you have places to go, so this is a time for you to exit. Thank you. I'm not leaving, I just have to get up. Yeah, well, I'm watching. I always forget that part. Get out. I'm
Okay.
just moving along, I forgot.
I promise you I didn't touch it, but it feels great.
I know, yeah.
Hey, Kelly.
We're moving on, item 6.01. You're right, I didn't do that. I'm back, thank you. Okay, item 6.01, this is policy changes on our second reading. Is there any discussion on those policies?
Did you,
We made, just to be clear, item, policy BCA, just about an hour ago, we resubmitted that, so I ask you all to take a look. That we inadvertently had a sentence in there that we had asked to be removed, and it is now corrected, if you want to make sure.
so are you suggesting that we approve it with the assumption that that correction is being made?
It is made. If you open it up, she's already submitted it, it's made.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
all right.
And so it reads, I mean, from my point of view, it's fine and corrected, but have you? So do we have a motion to approve policies AC, BCA, and BCC?
I move to approve policy AC, BCA, and BCC as presented.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Item 6.02, this is our COVID update, and that's Dr. Seifert.
It is. I'm going to go ahead and remove my mask as well, since
thank
I'm
you.
6 feet apart. I want to make a comment, too, about the thought of facial recognitions and being able to see people, especially teachers seeing students. And I want you to know that in our, not in all cases, but in many cases, our teachers have found, especially at the secondary level, have found a spot in their room or in the front of the room where they have marked it out, where kids know that that's where they're going to be, where they'll be 6 feet apart from people and they can take their mask off and have conversations and kids can hear them and see them. We know that's important, so that's happening. I also want to say this, we're kind of in this all or nothing mentality with, and one of our gentlemen tonight said something about look at the details, and I just want to make sure people are clear that we were kids at recess, outdoor activities, our football games, we're not masked because CDC says the recommendations are that you do not have to be masked outside. So we're not masked out, and we're not masked all day long. At lunchtime, they're in masked as well, and then it's under the jurisdiction of each teacher to give mask breaks during the day as well, and that's important to say. So I just want to make sure I commented on that. So we're going to take you through a quick presentation. There's probably 8 or 9 slides. I just want to remind you the first 3 or 4 just protocols, just reminders. And again, what is our why? Why are we doing what we're doing? We want to keep students and staff safe, and we want to keep them in school. And so obviously the safety is a huge, obviously that's what we all want. But there can be arguments about, what does safety look like? How deadly is this disease? And those type of things. The thing that you can't really debate is the fact that we're keeping students in school. We don't make the quarantine rules. But we have felt like that if we follow those quarantine protocols and rules, we're able to keep our students in school. And again, I am not pro-mask. I'm not anti-mask. My why is keeping our students and our staff safe and keep us in school. And you'll see our data in just a second. And we all can talk about other school districts and decisions they're making tonight to change to some masking and different things because they're seeing quite a few COVID cases and quarantine cases. We are simply keeping our students safe, and they're keeping them in school at this point. So I want to make sure we have that comment as well added in there. So just a reminder on slide 3, the protocols, the daily systems and checks and assessments are a very important piece of this. We do not want students or staff coming to school while they're sick. And we take this very serious because this is how we keep the spread out of our schools. The next item 4 is just to remind you of the testing that we're doing in each school. Julie talked about that earlier. It's a very important piece of it as well. And then obviously the protocols of the face covering and mask. That gives you 5. Just gives you the vocabulary and the. Did you have something you wanted?
I need to move that down to 5.
5, Chris, please. Thank you. I'm going to go through this pretty quick here, the next couple of slides,
one more,
Chris.
Chris.
So 5 is basically just showing you what's in our entry plan in terms of the vocabulary. 6 talks about our scenarios that we have come up with in our first entry plan. So we believe there's kind of, not that they're phases, but 3 different scenarios that we could go to. One would obviously be what we're in now, which is expected mandated for all students in K through 12 to be masked up. There's a middle ground where we could look at 7 through 12 students, since they're eligible to be vaccinated in an optional setting with masks. K6 would be still masked up because at this point they don't have a chance to get vaccinated. And then there is obviously an option to be encouraged to wear masks, but not mandated at this point. So there's 3 scenarios. Slide 7 just talks about the contact tracing and isolation, the quarantining that's happening. And again, we get our quarantining. We do not quarantine students. We do the contact tracing, and the school and the health department's the one who does the quarantining. And I can tell you, it's not on a slide, but I want to let you know there's continued conversations with other school districts in our county. It's not good or bad. It's just different. What we're seeing, and the data is showing us this. the districts that are in optional masks are seeing lots of kids quarantined, lots of numbers. And so there's lots of conversations. I just want to make sure our board knows there's continued conversations about changing quarantine. And we're not going to keep in the way of that, but we're not asking for any changes because we simply took what we were given and we're making it work, and we'll show our data in just a second. But I just want to make sure our Board of Education understood that there are some conversations coming up to changing quarantine, like two things. You saw Jefferson County go to this already, and they're basically a couple of their school districts, I think Northwest South Springs is one of them, that they petitioned to say are basically their health department, and this, what I understand, is a decision that was made that is independent of the state level, state health department, so it's the decision they have made. I don't know if that's backed up legally or not, but it's what they're deciding to do. And that is their optional masks. So they're trying to get a modified quarantine by saying if you're exposed at school, it doesn't matter if you're in a mask or not, for 14 days, the whole school, the whole class that is exposed would then wear a mask for 14 days. My issue with that is how do you police that at a middle school or a high school level to make sure, because it's optional, and make sure those kids are in masks all day. And so I think we have to be careful of that. The other thing that you might hear come up is there is a petition, or at least some of my colleagues are asking for the quarantining to have a modification of just if I'm wearing a mask, I can be modified to come back to school, not if it's mask to mask. I'm not against that. I just, at this point, what science has told us, what CDC has told us, what all of our health departments have told us is right now it is still a mask to mask situation. But I wanted to give you a heads up that those are two conversations that can continue to be had throughout the county. And so those changes could be made, but that would not be our changes. That would be from our health department at this point. Okay, slide 7. This is where we get into some numbers I want to show you. And I told you last time that we're really keying in on what the positivity rate. I know we can have debates and arguments that people aren't dying from COVID or kids aren't dying from COVID. But what we hear from CDC, what we hear from DHSS, what we hear from our local health department is really focusing on what that positivity rate. If you remember the range, 10 and higher % in the county, and I have the city and the county, and that's not just our school district, that's just the city, the zip, or the area code we live in, and then that's the whole county. So 10% or higher is still a high risk. That's why we're in masks. Anything from 5 to basically, or I should say 8 to 9, I would say 5 to 9 is moderate and substantial risk, and I think if we got into that 6 to 7 range or 8 range, we probably could look at maybe the 7th through 12th grade optional piece. That's my own thought. That's something that I would bring to you. And then if we're 5 or below %, that's when we would take our masks off, or we would recommend that. So we're ways away from that, but good news, the sky is not falling. We're balanced in this. We've gone from about 18% down to 10, as you see, 10.4 and basically 10.4 for city and county. We have a ways to go, but it is trending in the right direction, which is exciting to see. The not so great numbers is we're starting to see COVID numbers rise in our schools, and we've seen that in our other county schools as well. So. And I'll show you numbers in just a second, but yes, there's a rise in COVID cases since 8/23. We've logged it since the first day of school, so we're starting to see some cases. And then our county school districts, our counterparts are starting to see, I would say 2 weeks ago or a week ago, it was really a conversation about how many were quarantined. Now the conversations are starting to be how many COVID cases are actually in the building. Not so much for us, but around us. Okay? So that's the positivity rate, and that tells you kind of where we're at in terms of the numbers we're really looking at to make some decisions with our masks. Okay, if you go to 9, Chris, and those blue links, just so you know, that's the dashboard. The first one was the dashboard from the health department, and this blue link is actually our dashboard, and I know people have asked me why isn't it on the district website. We're not focused on these numbers, but we were keeping them internally, and one thing that's happening is good or bad, or right or wrong, or fair or unfair, we do have a lot of news outlets that are just grabbing numbers and they're just throwing stuff out there, and we feel like if they need numbers from us, and we were gonna update every meeting for you as well, and we'll bring that out. We're not afraid to show our numbers. Actually, we're very proud of where we're at with our numbers at this point. But that's why we're keeping them off the website at this point. So this is the meat and potatoes of what we need to talk about. So as of 8/23, or starting on 8/23, and as of today, I am proud to tell you that we have 0 active staff cases. Now, is that mass to mass? Is that vaccinations? Is that our staff just making good decisions? I think it's all of the above. Since 8/23, we have 2 cumulative confirmed staff cases in our buildings. Julie, please jump in, or central office team if you guys have anything to add. Student-wise, that is where we're seeing our cases. So as of today, we have 13 active in-person student cases in our district. That sounds like a lot. Last year, November, December, January, we could see almost 11, 12, 13 in one day. So it does seem like a lot for current active students, but 13 out of almost 4,800 students is a pretty good number. Now, what we have tracked so far then, as from 8/23 until today, we have 24 cumulative in-person student cases. So 13 are active, but we've had 24 cases. Here's the interesting piece. 1 was at early childhood, then 23 of them were from K through 12. But here's kind of some of the telling of the details. 17, and they're talking about younger students, right? You can't be vaccinated, and they're seeing a rise in students. So 17 of those cases of 24 came from our K-6 buildings. And then we have 3 cases, only 3 cases from our 7 to 12 buildings. Now that's 3 buildings versus 6. 6 or 7, I understand that, but that's pretty amazing. And I also feel like that's mask to mask and also vaccinations as well. One of our high schools hasn't had a case yet. Knock on wood, please. Now here's the other piece. Out of those 23, we have 3 cases from our Lewis and Clark and our CAPS programs, and I don't mean to point fingers, but those 3 students are from other districts. They're not ours. I mean, we love them for the half day, but then they go to their, but that just shows you that there's 3 there that out of the 23 are from other districts as well. Okay? And then we also look at our probable cases. So you can basically say we have 25 cumulative cases, but we have 1 probable active, and that puts us as one basic cumulative probable case as well. And probable, you want to just make sure people know what probable means real quick, and why we differentiate that very quickly, please.
Probable just means that they were a contact of a positive case, and then they have either one larger symptom like loss of smell or something like that, or 2 smaller symptoms. They automatically get called probable because they've been exposed, they are a contact, and then they develop symptoms. So those people were not necessarily tested. They just are called probable and have to follow the same procedures as a confirmed case.
I'm going to ask a question that maybe nurses too know. Just on a personal case. So I have a 99-year-old father who was asked to take the COVID test. And he is now quarantined because, and this is the first time I've seen the document, the test, and he took not the rapid, he went to Barnes.
PCR.
Yeah. And it reads that he is presumptive positive.
Yes, presumed positive.
He has, well, that's my amazing. It says you have, and this one said he had only 1 out of multiple factors. And I thought, because he's asymptomatic,
Yeah,
so
presumed positive means they do have it in their, they're not actual positive until it goes to or like the national database. Then it becomes an actual positive. So anybody around here who tests positive with a test, whether it's rapid or PCR, they're not actually, they're all presumed positive until it goes to the national database.
So, not to say figures could be different, but we may have, does that mean we could have people who are saying you're That's one of our active
All of,
cases?
all of the people that are actually positives
Uh-huh.
are presumed positives.
Okay.
And then probable is different. Presumed positive is just pretty much the same as positive. It just hasn't, is it the CDC it goes to and then they log it, or it's not until it's logged in the national database that it's actually considered a positive.
Okay, I just read this thing about, my
Yeah.
goodness,
It's
how
the
many
s-
factors are there?
It's the same thing as a positive.
Okay, so when you're talking about the probable active.
Probable means there hasn't been a test done.
Okay, okay,
But they have somebody in their family.
But they, yes, they've
And
been
they're
in
showing
contact and they've developed symptoms.
because some, I'm saying he's asymptomatic, so some people could be.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
So this is, the next piece is very important to talk about as well, and this is, again, the why, keeping students in class. So again, starting on 8/23, as of of today, we have 41 students. This is cumulative numbers, this is not active numbers, but since the 8/23 into today, we have 41 cumulative modified quarantine students. Those kids were contact traced, being mask to mask, within 3 feet. They are modified. They have to stay home, going other places, but they can come to school. So they're still coming to school. We have 41 of those kids.
And none of them have become positive at this point.
Thank you. 22 cumulative full quarantine students from a school exposure. Okay? Now, so that means we not actively, currently, but since this whole time, since 3 weeks, we've had 22 kids that have been out full. And let me give you some details to that. 15 of those are from our early childhood, off of one case because of that age and what we're doing with masks there, and it's an optional mask there. They had 15 out of one case. So out of the 22 who have not been able to come to school, and again, our goal is to keep kids in school, 15 of them are from early childhood. That means only 7 from K through 12 had to miss school because of COVID. That is the proof. Again, not that masks are stopping COVID, or, we can have the debate that why are vaccinated people be able to be exempt from quarantine and those type of things, because vaccinated people can get sick. But simply going through the regulations of what we were being given, the recommendations from CDC to DHSS to our local health department, we've only had 7 kids miss school. And right now, 2 are actively out. It's only 2 out of 4,800 kids. That's pretty telling where we're at this point. Julie, did you want to add anything to that?
The reason that they're actually out is because they didn't have masks on at a certain point, like it was lunch or it was,
So basically, where you can get exposed is pretty much at lunch or activities. But again, if you're basically 12 and up, 7th and 12th grade, and you're wearing a mask most of the day, and you're vaccinated, you're pretty much coming to school, which is great.
so our nurses, on top of keeping all the data and the contact tracing, they're also telling us whether it's an isolation because they have COVID, it's quarantine from a home exposure, quarantine from a school exposure, a modified quarantine, or in the cases of CAPS and Lewis and Clark, they're telling us if it was a quarantine based on the other school district exposure. So we're keeping all of that data behind the scenes so that we can give that to you and be able to tell you exactly how they were exposed and why they can or can't be at school.
And again, I don't like talking about other school districts, but I can just tell you, because I know the meetings are happening tonight, and I've already seen some of the news. School districts that are not having a mandate a mask now are going back and having to put masks on kids in certain situations. I'm not saying it's the whole district wide, but they have to go back. It's not just because of the quarantine anymore, it's because of actually cases. And that's happening. That's not right or wrong or good or bad, it's just factual. So our recommendation at this point to you as a Board of Education, and let me say this, the students who talked today, the students who, and the parents who continue to tell us that masks are detrimental to the relationship of those things, I empathize with that, and that's something that I really don't like to hear or see, to be honest with you. But again, some of the things that we've heard, like we couldn't go to different things last year, we couldn't do labs. I've said this all along. We're back to, This is not normal, but this is keeping us normal. This is keeping people in school at this point, and I think that's important. We're back, homecoming. We're having parades. We're going to have assemblies. Hopefully those assemblies will be outside. We're just being smart. I believe if you do it smart and you do some things mitigation-wise, you can still have your life and get on with things. We're still going to have dances. We're going to probably have them outside. So we're doing certain things and bringing back our kids' practice stands for football games. High hasn't had a home game yet, but West has, and we're having a great time. We're going to pack the stands in basketball games, but at this point, if we're in masks, we'll be in masks. So we're doing it, I believe we're doing it the way we were asked to do it or recommended. Again, I understand there's no mandates, but we have gone through the experts with the recommendations, and what is working for us right now to keep students safe and keep them in school, our recommendation, slide 10, please, at this point, from you as a Board of Education, is to, again, extend it for 30 days. We'll look at it again in 30 days, but to keep the masks in place at this point. But then again, it is and again, this is your decision. And I'm on the chopping block a little bit because believe me, I get emails just like you all do, and I get some nasty grams, and I'm quite honest with you, we get a few that are disturbing. but to be honest with you, but I want to make sure that as a leader and as a district leader, it's my responsibility to give you recommendations. I know you're making the decision, but it's my job to lead the best way I know how to. And at this point, the data speaks, and I feel like we need to continue to do what we're doing.
Jason, can I throw one more piece of data in there that I didn't give you that I just thought of? I just looked at our Lewis and Clark tracker. So when I said we are also keeping track of kids that are quarantined because they were exposed to other school districts, we have 15 kids out right now quarantined at Lewis and Clark that can't attend school because they were actually quarantined because of an exposure in their home district. That's a lot of kids at Lewis and Clark that are on quarantine.
I didn't understand all you said, but those 15 students that are quarantined are from other districts?
They are quarantined from coming to Lewis and Clark because of an exposure in a different district. They were not exposed in our district because of the mask mandate. They were exposed in another district, so they have to miss school because even though they can't come here either, if they were exposed, they are not wearing a mask.
I would like to end with this. I am not saying that anybody else is right or wrong. I'm not saying that we're right or wrong. I just know the information I've been given and what I understand is working for us to continue to keep our kids in school. And that's what's happening at this point. I'm hoping at some point we take these off. And I think we will. But right now, I think we need to continue to do it. So, yes.
I know it says this is an information discussion, but I think we need to at least have your feeling again to continue.
Yeah, let me just add, that's a good point. Let me add to this. There's House Bill, there's a Bill 271 that we talked about last time, but I'll just repeat it. There are a lot of educational legal teams and different people that don't believe that House Bill or that bill pertains to educational boards. However, we're going to follow that so we don't have any issues. Obviously, we've seen the Attorney General enter this situation, so we're gonna abide by that. What that says is the governing body has to prove it. I can say, hey, we're gonna be a mask, but within 30 days you have to approve it, and you have to continue to approve it every 30 days. So we're just gonna keep abiding by that, so we don't have to worry about that. And it's great to look at it every month.
Well, and many of us voted last month knowing that we would reevaluate every month.
Yeah,
So,
and things change.
and vote.
Yeah, and then, and you can't really win it all because then we've got some people who said, I can't believe you're only doing 30 days. We're following the law, and we're also giving us an opportunity to look at data because, again, this is not, I was like, whoa. This is not the end all. This is what's keeping us at this point in time in school. So.
Okay, well, let's vote.
So, members of the board, any further discussion on this item that you'd like to present? And then we will take a motion when you're ready.
Well, I'd like to point out that I did some number crunching this afternoon, and one school district that is mask optional has almost 3% of their students currently on quarantine.
That-
The number is 508. 508 students have to miss 2 weeks of school. So to compare
to us.
to us, you know,
Right. Yeah, I think most of us agree that, as Dr. Seifert has said, no one likes wearing masks, and we agree with the two young men who talked about, how it impacts them in school. A 7-year-old will tell you the same thing. No one likes wearing the mask, and it does have some hindrances that we don't like. But looking at what we have in data right now, and our numbers have been going down, and we're at 10.4. If we evaluate each month, I'm foreseeing that we will be able to change our mask protocol. But right now, we need to have a motion to vote on maintaining our mask mandate as being,
Yes.
yes.
I move that we maintain the mask mandate for COVID, for the next month until the next school board meeting.
I'll second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you, Lori. Yeah, we have one member who is on Zoom. Those opposed? Okay. All right, our COVID mandate will continue for another month. Thank you. We're ready for item 7.01. This is our professional development plan review. Okay, we're ready.
All right, guys. Well, we're excited tonight to bring you our professional development plan. As you know, this is a plan that we bring every year that highlights kind of the direction that we're heading with professional development for the year. We have a couple of people here with us that are going to help co-present. So we have Valerie Sutton from Null Elementary. She's currently the chair of the District Professional Development Committee. And we also have Carla Johnson with us from Lewis and Clark, and she is the past chair of the DPDC, and together they make up the executive committee of the District Professional Development Committee. So in board docs, you have two items. You have the professional development plan, which is a really long document that has a lot of our policies, procedures, guidelines, forms, different things that we use to help guide the professional development and the use of funds within the district. We also have tried to create kind of an executive summary of what we are focusing on in the district when it comes to professional development this year. And so I'd like to highlight a few things, and then I'm going to ask Val and Carla to come up, and they're going to help share some items as well. So within the district, we have the District Professional Development Committee, which helps guide and lead professional development for all of our certified staff in the district. We also have the SSPDC, the Support Staff Professional Development Committee, too. And they also meet to help guide professional development to make sure it's relevant for all of our custodians and maintenance, our technology department, our office staff, secretaries, and paras, things like that. So we have been working to address district initiatives, CSIP goals, to help support people within their roles so that they can continue to learn and grow. And we have been able to do that over the years through a few ways. First of all, our calendar has been set up to allow us to have either early release days, approximately one per month for K through 8, or early outs at the high school level. That allows us to have some common planning time within our building schedules, or if they're not able to have common planning time, they can use some of that time to work together collaboratively. It allows us time to be able to work on building initiatives, building goals, district goals, those types of things. And all of our professional development does relate back to district initiatives and our CSIP goals or the school improvement goals that the building has set. So we do have a couple of things within the district. We do have our district-wide professional development day that we've instituted a few years back. This year, we are splitting that out. On October 29th, we will have the full-day professional development day for the majority of our support staff. So our maintenance and custodians, our office staff and secretarial staff, our technology department, they are all going to have professional development on that day when our buildings are closed, because that's the Friday after parent-teacher conferences. What we found in previous years when we had everybody together is that those individuals were getting pulled to do other things. Our maintenance and custodians were getting pulled to open the buildings and keep it running because we had them open for the professional development day. Our tech department was getting pulled to deal with technology issues, and they weren't able to have the professional development that they needed. So we have split that out for this year. So October 29th, they are going to have their day. And then that following Monday, it's a no-school day for our students. And our certified staff, our paraprofessionals, and our nurses are all going to have professional development that day. And so we feel like that new structure will allow everybody to be able to focus, and people shouldn't feel like they're being pulled in multiple directions. We are excited to offer a great opportunity or a great several options for people to be able to choose from. And so we'll go through that with you in just a moment. We also are still participating in the Missouri Model Districts Grant through the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. They provide a lot of customized support to each of our schools around assessment-capable learners, about instructional coaching strategies, about data analysis, and RTI and intervention. We also are working with the RPDC, the Regional Professional Development Council, through Ed Plus to provide some RTI school-based coaching this year. So all of our schools have the opportunity to work with Ed Plus to customize professional development to continue to help their building progress in their PLC and their RTI journey. We know with all of our students coming back from the school closures and from about a third of our students being virtual last year to re-emerging, that we have some academic needs that are persisting for our students. We have some social emotional needs as students are re-emerging, and so we want to help provide support to our schools so as they continue to build those supports for students, that they can also feel supported along that journey. And then we also have new teacher orientation, which we just held, it seems like not very long ago, but a lifetime ago at the same time. We had, I believe it was 48 new staff members that we welcomed into our school district family. We did restructure new teacher orientation this year to provide more choice, so that we had sessions that were set up based around different topics like instructional support and curriculum implementation, social emotional learning, which also included mental health and trauma-based education strategies, diversity, equity, inclusion strategies, looking at RTI and closing the achievement gap, and technology. And the teachers were able to choose sessions that they felt most met the needs that they had or for the positions that they were going to employ this year. And we received a lot of really great feedback from our new teachers about those changes. Well, they didn't know any different, but we had a lot of great feedback from them. In fact, one person in their comments had said in there, this is the 4th district that I've been a part of, and this is the first district that has done a really great job of welcoming us into the family, and has really supported us through the new teacher orientation process. And they basically said, job well done, this is the best version of this that I've seen, and I've seen it 4 times. So those are the types of things that we are excited to see through our evaluations, that we've tried to focus, give choice, and meet people where they are, and so that they can continue their own learning process. So now I'm going to invite up Val and Carla. And we're going to talk you through kind of like the executive summary that we put together for you. Through our district professional development committee, we do have 4 areas that are overarching goal areas that we work towards every year. The first is sustaining and enhancing our PLC processes within our district and our schools. Our second is increasing student learning, because obviously that is the end goal of everything that we're trying to do in our district. The third is becoming more data-driven with all of our practices to make sure what we're doing for students is making a difference for students. And, and then also working with our new teacher orientation program to make sure that our new teachers get the support that they need so that they can be successful and that they stay with us in this career for a long time to come. So those are our 4 main goal areas. And like I said earlier, everything else within those relates back to our CSIP, relates back to our district initiatives. And so in this table, if you guys want to come up, because I'm just going to keep talking. I'm just going to keep going. In this table, we're going to highlight for you some of the things that we're doing through, either it was through summer professional development, our full day PD that's coming up, ongoing PD that's going on in the district or through buildings. We've had book studies. All of our buildings have their various PD initiatives as well. Our district professional development committee continues professional learning for themselves as well, and then new teacher orientation. So I think Val's going to walk us through the first 2 columns around instructional support, curriculum implementation, and then the social emotional learning, trauma-based education, and mental health supports. Yes. Yeah. That's a great question. So typically in our district, the book study is that we give everybody a specific book. They read it together, or they read it on their own, but then they come together at different points to discuss the book that they've read to that point, how it relates to our district, our classrooms, ourselves personally and professionally. And it's really more of a personal and professional growth type of opportunity. We don't have, all of the book studies pretty much to this point have been voluntary in nature. People were able to choose to do that. We do typically, as part of our curriculum revision processes, we do typically have book studies that go along with that process to help shift some of our thinking along that way. So, but outside of curriculum types of things, our book studies are voluntary, and we had quite a few people participate in them over the last year.
Who chooses those books?
Well, it just depends. So, like this past year, we had quite a few of them that were related to diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Yes.
Because that's one of the areas that we've really looked at. We have a diversity, equity, and inclusion committee that has met over the last year to kind of help lead this process. And those books were generated from that committee or from individuals that have on the committee that attended a virtual conference, and those were books that were covered or discussed in the virtual conference. And so we were able to purchase those books and make them available. And then within that committee, I'm pretty sure everybody on that committee served on at least 1 or 2 of those book studies. And then individuals from that group then offered the book studies out during the summer to the district as a whole. So that's typically how that piece has been done. Whenever we have book studies that relate to instructional practice or let's say social emotional learning, trauma-based education. So we've done in the past book studies around Help for Billy, which is a trauma-based education book that many of our staff members have participated in. Or Teach Like a Pirate, which gives practical instructional strategies, but is also a motivational book to get people fired up about the teaching practice. Those are things that teachers or DPDC members or other individuals have offered to lead out, and then we will do that usually during the summer in-services, so teachers can read over the summer and meet. Or buildings have led that too, where individuals on the staff have said, hey, I'd like to do a book study on X, Y, or Z. And then sometimes those staff members meet before school, after school, or they'll call it a learning lunch, and they'll meet at lunchtime to discuss the books. Do you guys want to talk about that? Because I know you both have participated in various book studies as well.
So, well, what I'm asking is, who's the ultimate decider of which books are going to be used in the book studies to ensure that they fit our philosophy of education? That's really what I'm concerned about.
So the book studies that we have had, all up until this point, have either been vetted through the District Professional Development Committee.
And who from administration is on that level?
I am.
Okay, you are.
I
Okay.
am, so that flows through my office. We also have 4 of our building level principals who serve as liaisons to that committee as
So
well.
you all read these books ahead of time?
We may not read all of them, but we have done our research in terms of the reviews, the different articles. We've come to those books through other very reputable educational sources to get us there.
Okay.
And
I'm
they
ju-
usually relate directly back to other professional development that we've already offered in the district.
Okay, I just want some type of control
Yeah.
over our philosophy of education because, I mean, I know at the university level, there's an awful lot of controversial books that are great book studies, but perhaps do not assimilate with that principle of education for us.
Sure.
And that's what my concern is.
So all of the books that we have on our list that you saw there, we stand behind. We've vetted in various different capacities. And then at our building level, they also may choose book studies as well that relate back to things that they're implementing there as well.
So you feel there's enough oversight to
I-
make sure that we are picking the right books?
Ladies, what do you think?
I can give an example of like a building book study. So was it 3 years ago, we rewrote our ELA curriculum and we kind of went to like the science of reading and kind of bringing in the science of reading into our instruction. So a lot of buildings did. Some of the coaches, instruction coaches went to a training. It was about the science of reading. They brought those book studies back to their building and let our staff do it so that we could also bring that into our classrooms and support our students. So a lot of it goes with our CSIP goals, and every book study that we try to embed or try to talk to our teachers about really goes along with our philosophy of education and supports what we're doing as a district to enhance our learning so that we can bring it into our classrooms. And it kind of gives us an opportunity to not have to miss days in the classroom, not have to go outside to a conference. And it gives you a chance to learn with your PLCs and have conversations around those discussions so that you can enhance your learning and keep growing as a teacher. So book studies is one way that you can have a quick PD option to help you continue to grow.
And one, if I could add something, one overarching thing that we have as well is we have the SAS United plan that we came up with 3 years ago that tells us our why and what we do. And then we also have our 2 big rocks and our RTI process and our student needs that drives everything that we do as well. So it has to line up with our philosophy and our goals and how we're moving forward with our CSIP as well.
Yes, and that's my concern. I want to make sure it does, as opposed to,
And we get book studies approved.
I mean, I'd hate to get an errant book in there, and boy, can we have problems. So,
So with this you were going to talk about instructional support, curriculum implementation, and social emotional learning.
Yes. Okay, so instructional support and curriculum implementation is something that is ongoing. We make sure that we provide professional development throughout the entire school year and including our summer. And that even after something is implemented, we continue to have PD on those areas to if new teachers come in, or sometimes teachers who've been teaching for so long, we need like a refresher. So we try to make sure that we have ongoing professional development to support teachers and their implementation of curriculum. So we have summer PD this past summer. We did our Teachers College Writers Workshop came in, and they gave they gave professional development on Writers Workshop. We've been using our units of study for about 10 years now, so just having that refresher to come in and have that ongoing PD kind of gives teachers the new insight of how to bring it back into their classroom. We also have a lot of foundations summer PD with that new Wilson Learning that we got, so we have ongoing PD for that so that teachers can keep growing on that area. We have a lot of math training through Math in Focus. That really helps with new teachers that are coming into the district. So those 48 new teachers who have never been trained on that program have that opportunity to be trained on it so that they can start day one feeling confident, knowing what they are going to be teaching. We also had Learn 360 this year, and then we also have a lot of classroom videos on demand. So like any teachers that need technology support, or if they couldn't make the math training and they wanted to watch some videos on what the lessons look like, we have a whole PD option for that. So it's just summer PD to kind of get new teachers ready to go, teachers who want to go back to those PD to start the new school year. So that was our summer PD. We also have our full day coming up in November 1st, which we're really excited about. We have Jen Cervallo coming, who used to work for the Teachers College, who works with teachers on how to create small groups and differentiate in the classroom. She is amazing. We're really excited to have her company come in because it will help teachers know how to work one-on-one or in a small group setting to differentiate for their students. We also have pre-K second through second Angela Throw, who's going to come in and talk about like fine motor skills and things like that, and how we can help support kiddos who need that extra support with fine motor skills. So it goes through curriculum, but it also gets like, how can we prep our kids to make sure that we are setting them up for that success. Ongoing PD, which means this is constantly ongoing. We have now instructional coaches at the high school level, which is amazing. We have K4 math PD for every elementary building. Heather Krieger is coming in, and she is making PD for each building, so buildings get to decide what they need, each grade level gets to decide what they need to support their teaching skills, so that's amazing. We were going to have K4 foundations walkthrough, so the trainers from Wilson were going to come into our buildings and they were going to walk into classrooms to see how the implementation is going, because this is year 2 for that. So it's kind of like, what are we doing well? What are some things that we need to work on? How can we keep continuing to grow? And then our 3rd and 4th grade teachers, this is their second year with foundations as well, and this is their year to get PD at our 2 horizontal days. So all the 3rd grade teachers and all the 4th grade teachers will come together, and they will have a facilitator from Wilson Reading who will come and give them PD on the foundations as well. Any questions about instructional implementation, curriculum? Another big rock that we've really worked on too was a lot of social emotional learning. And we've been doing this type of learning, lots of PD for probably 4 years now. We've sent teams to Heather Forbes, who is she does a lot of that trauma training. And we had trauma teams go there, and they brought it back into their buildings, and they taught the rest of their staff about that. Through that, we've learned how to, there's zones of regulation, how to work with a kid who's dysregulated, having a calm down spout, having rest areas, or reset rooms where kids just have that opportunity to go and take a break. Right? School's tough. Sometimes kids just need a break. So that PD has really helped teachers learn how to implement that into their classroom on top of all the curriculum that they do, is how can we support our kids' social, emotional as well. So we've had John Converse come in, who is a local guy who does a lot of restorative circle practice. And this year, the DPDC is actually doing the Circle Forward book as a book study, which supports restorative circles. So on our side, we'll be able to push out, this book has a lot of ideas and lessons that you could do with your whole class on restorative circles. So the point would be to let everybody have that community, and then we're one family inside the classroom, and that we want to be a part of the circle. So it's kind of like a classroom management thing as well. So he's actually going to come at our full PD day this year, and he's going to reinforce that book, which is really exciting because our DPDC committee is also doing that as well. So we're looking forward to having him come in and support that work that we're doing as a district. It also supports classical mindfulness. And then our ongoing PD for trauma is youth mental health first aid, crisis prevention, and that's it for trauma. Any questions about social emotional?
So then when we talk about diversity, that's another area that we mentioned that the district is really focusing on. And so we did have a lot of book studies that have run this past year through the committee work and through the summer. We also had 2 trainings this summer. We had Anthony Muhammad come out and work with our administrators during the administrator retreat. And that was a very empowering and transformational day for everybody. The reviews from that were very, very highly rated. And then we also had a 2-day training this summer at the beginning of August with educational equity consultants, where over 60 people in the district came together. Many of them were from the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, and as well as many others from the district. And we spent 2 days together, and that was a very powerful, eye-opening training too. I think that everybody who participated came out changed from that training. So those were 2 separate professional developments that were highly impactful this summer. Then we also have for the fall full-day PD for the October 29th, we have Dr. Ken Williams coming to us, and he's going to be the keynote speaker for all of the support staff around diversity, equity, and inclusion, but then he will also have breakout sessions. Since that's a day that many of our staff are off, they have the option, if they would like to come to attend additional sessions, they are welcome to do so. They can earn CEUs and credit for that time as well. And then on that Monday, November 1st, Dr. Anthony Muhammad, who was here this summer with our administrators, he will be back with us for the keynote for our certified staff, and then he will have breakout sessions during that day as well. And before we send everything out for registration, all of you are also welcome to attend if your schedules allow. So as soon as those booklets are ready for you to review so that you can pick sessions, we will make sure that you're included on those. Book studies are continuing, and that pretty much wraps up the diversity, equity, and inclusion work at this point. The committee will continue to meet this year and will help drive that work as we move forward. And then one of the big rocks for the district for a few years now has been RTI and making sure that we're working within our power to close the achievement gap for our students wherever we can. So we do have various sessions coming for the full day. And then I also mentioned earlier that we're working with Ed Plus and Missouri Model Districts, and we are going to offer the RTI school-based coaching for each of the schools so that they can really get the next step of their journey for their building. Because our levels are at different places, but even within the levels, sometimes the buildings are at different places. And so creating a one-size-fits-all training in this would not be the best way to go. So this is more customized to meet the specific needs of the schools. And then we've been continuing to do things like the distance learning playbook and different things like that. Differentiation in the classroom and RTI have all been focus areas. And so Carla's going to talk to us a little bit about technology, which is the other major strand that we've focused on.
Yes. So historically, we have always provided, I think, a strong set of courses for summer PD in technology. It tends to be what draws many of our participants. Teachers want to learn about technology in the summertime because it's fun and it's something that we can really get into and we can really use it as soon as we get back. Never has that been more important than in the last 18 months, that it's no longer something that we can just sprinkle in here and there in our lessons. It's integral because we do have kids out on quarantine and we do need to be utilizing Google Classroom daily now. So we have our Google Level 1 and 2 certifications and our SIS 360, which is our grade book. Teachers this year were transitioned to the SIS 360 instead of the classic grade book that a few of us veterans have been holding on tight to. And so it was really important to get that training because although 360 is more user-friendly, it still is a transition and that can be difficult sometimes. So we gave that training. Lynn Hare is coming on our full day of PD in November. I am so excited to have Lynn back here. She's been here several times. She is a phenomenal presenter. She is so passionate about using technology in education, and every time I go, I feel like she stretches me to the limits of my capability and then coaches me through just a little bit further. And I walk away every time feeling like my mind is blown, and I know I'm not the only one. So I'm really excited to have her back. And we will also have other district presenters on technology. Our ongoing professional development is through individual and small group trainings, probably with Tina. And Tina, she put, correct me if I'm wrong, the classroom video on demand was, I mean, that is such a resource for us because technology is something that sometimes I can only take so much of it and I need it in a small segment before I can be ready. I can implement this and then I can come back. So it's very important to have the on-demand because then I can go find exactly what I need as I need it. I think as with everything with technology, we are focusing on our big rocks, but there is a lot of choice that's involved in it also, and that's where the on-demand comes in. That you can, where do you need to be trained, and you can find that to meet it. Do you have any questions?
No, you guys did a great job. Thank you. So we have a lot planned. As we go through the year, as needs emerge, we will continue to plan professional development. Schools are in the process now of starting to develop their school improvement plans. Their professional development is going to be aligned to all of that. So more is still to come, but the areas that we've talked about are the major areas of focus for the district as we continue to move forward with professional development. So we'd like to entertain any questions that you have or any comments or suggestions.
I have a question.
Sure.
And I apologize because I'm kind of hitting you up without having forewarned you on
You're
this
fine.
question.
Go ahead.
But I'm a strong believer in professional development, and I like the fact that you said that you're going to now show if it's effective or not. So I wouldn't mind, I don't know how the rest of the board feels about this, but you know, when we have these reviews, these program reviews, I wouldn't mind knowing how much we are paying for these different programs. You understand what I'm saying? Do you agree or disagree?
And it's hard to separate out because a major part of the professional development is those early release days, right? And everybody's got 24 hours of early release, and what does that cost?
I don't know, does that go into professional development?
But that does not. That doesn't come out of my budget.
Yeah.
So basically, our district professional development committee funds that state mandated. That's 1% of our budget. So depending on the year, it's usually between $70,000 to $72,000 that the district professional development committee has to spend on professional development. For our support staff PD, we spend probably less than $10,000 a year on that. And then I also have access to additional funds within my department or from federal dollars that often have percentages there that we can use for professional development. And then the schools within their budget allocations have money that they can use for professional development. So I think that Charles, as he's coming in, he might have a better idea too, but I would say probably as a district, for the professional development that we see happen throughout the year through district means or through building means, I would probably say it's in the ballpark of $150,000-ish. And that would be a normal year where we're paying for subs, where there may be people traveling to professional development, so there's travel costs. Last year in COVID, it was nowhere near that. Nowhere near that. But I would say in a typical year prior to COVID, $150,000 is probably.
That's actually less than I would
Than I
have
would have
thought,
thought.
because
Yeah, exactly.
that stuff's
I think you
expensive.
get a lot of bang for your buck.
Yeah, and you have a reputation for having just an incredible professional development program, you know, so I'm not, as I said, this is not a loaded question. I just want to know how much we're spending.
But to Ellen's point, like those figures, those would not be in the numbers that I just gave you.
Yeah.
Like the
Well,
staff
and,
cost.
24 hours of instructional time is a lot of time for kids to be missing. And I wonder what measurements you have to see that is worth 24 hours of instruction. every teacher, either, well, at the high school level, it's 24 hours of intervention time that they miss. The students miss 24 hours of intervention time. And at the elementary, they miss 24 hours of instructional time. And I don't know what that is used for, if it's data analysis. Maybe okay. All right. But anyway, so, you know, I just want justification for learning loss. We've got a lot of learning loss, and 24 hours additional time would go a long ways in eliminating that learning loss.
So when we talk about learning loss, many, many years ago, when I was still actively teaching or whatever, then the teachers, all of us, whether we were administrators or still in the classroom, our cry was, there's not enough time in the day for us to improve our teaching skills, and we need to figure something out so we can do that and be better and smarter at what we're doing. Because honestly, 30, 40 years ago when I was teaching, it was just, you know, you're just thrown out there. So I understand there's time learning loss from, as you can calculate it by hours, but I think the trade-off is the quality of instruction improves so much by giving teachers that time.
Well, not if you're mandating what they do with that time. One of my last years of teaching, every time we would have an early out, I was to meet with a teacher who was teaching the same class. And we were to give the principal a copy of our common assessment that we had to write and compare our scores. Well, we were surprised to find that our scores were almost identical. And we submit that to the principal. And then the next time we'd have an early out, we repeated the process.
Well, I'm wondering if what I'm hearing now, and I've forgotten on how.
I didn't retire many years ago.
No, but,
you know.
But each year, I think our
Well,
PD
I would like proof of that, you know.
Well, I think I can speak to some of it. So when we look at professional development as a whole, you know that some of it is going to be ambiguous because there's so many different variables that go into it. But there are some pieces that we're seeing. Some of those pieces with our professional development directly related to curriculum implementation occur on early release days or potentially early outs at the high school level. And so what we've seen, and I think that Val can probably speak from her role as an instructional coach and as a former first grade teacher, of those implementations of those new curriculum, those times that they have that intentional professional development, either on horizontal days where all of third grade comes together for their training, or the customized pieces where the coaches are moving into the buildings to provide that for teachers. When we're doing our instructional walkthroughs, we are seeing it implemented consistently across the district.
Well,
So
I'm
it's
just wondering, why was I required to repeat the same thing over again? It never got any higher, you know. We weren't told to stop doing what we were doing. We were told to continue doing what we were doing. And the same result for one semester, we analyzed all our tests, and we didn't see a difference in our scores. And
I think that that's also part of that PLC and that RTI journey, because sometimes you can get stuck in just like churning the data.
Well, and I really resented it, you know. It was like I was forced to churn.
But the next step is, how do you take that data and not necessarily, if you're seeing the same things, but when you dig deeper for the kids who aren't getting it, what are we able to do differently within the intervention periods? Or what are we able to do differently so that those kids who aren't where we need them to be, how do we get them there? Or the kids who already have it, how do we push them further?
Mandated.
Yeah, but Ellen, that
that
could have been,
one
that
thing.
could have been at your building level where it was miscommunicated to you, and, you know, what the whole point of this was. You know,
Because
it-
maybe it's an
No,
opportunity for
no.
you
Yeah.
two to really work through the weeds. But you know what, in the interest of time,
Okay, yeah, I'll shut up about it, but, you know, I'm just saying what my experience has been
okay.
in the district.
Can I just say something real quick to your point, Ellen? To be honest, I mean, just flat out honest, I think, especially at our high school level, and I think our principals would say this, I think the piece that you're talking about, I think that common assessment piece, for a lot of the teams that worked, I think we were stuck at some points, and we didn't go beyond that. And I think that's what, well, I'm agreeing with you. So I think that, and I think there's some other teams, it sounds to me like, and again, I think this is a good clarification point. It sounds to me like your partner, the person you worked with, you actually had a common assessment piece, and then, which is a good thing, because we have some teams that are stuck that don't even have the common assessment piece yet, because that's a big part of the journey as well. And so you were able to you were past that point, but then you were stuck because you weren't led to the next step after that.
Right, I was not allowed.
And so I want you to know that I feel like what we're doing now, especially as we've added instructional coaches to the high school level that are helping us with this process, that we are getting to the next pieces of what to do with data. And I believe that we were stuck there for a while.
No.
And
Okay.
I just feel that's what I have seen, and so I want to validate your point. I believe we're moving forward.
Well, and another piece of that would be algebra data, right? Like, so we've been working with our algebra teams at the high school level, and so they have had some intense professional development. They have gone through the practice of creating their common assessments and analyzing the data and putting in interventions for kids where they're not getting it. And over this past year with COVID, and over this past year with so many students virtual, our and I shouldn't say expectation, our gut fear was that our scores were going to drop further. But in that group where they have been intentional and they have been focused, we actually saw an increase in scores over 2019 scores. So that's a place where we've been intentional, we've been focused, we've been working them through that process, and it hasn't always been sunshine and roses, right? But on the flip side of it, then we do have some pieces of data that are saying, but you can see the growth. In light of virtual learning, in light of a pandemic, we're still continuing to grow. So I hear you, and I think that, like Jason, we can echo some of the same sentiments, but I also think it's part of the process of where we were and where we're starting to head. And so this year, like, the plans that the schools at the high school level they're putting together is on their early outs, about every third one or fourth one, they'll have professional development. The other time that they do have time for collaboration. And much of that is because in our small school schedule, we can't get common plan time for teachers. And so that time is really reserved for the collaboration that they need to have amongst like teachers, and looking at how are students doing, how can we shore up those learning loss gaps, and how can we continue to move everybody forward.
And I fully believe, it's not in every case, but as the PO teams are stronger, they're I don't want to say the word allowed, but they're empowered to move forward with the data and do some things with it. And I don't think you were. I think we were stuck. And I think we're now moving forward. And again, what is that data? What does that proof look like? I think we're going to see that individual growth with kids.
I was just going to say that at our full day PD day, we actually, because, at the high school level, we've talked a lot about what does RTI look like, how can we support our high school teachers. We've had a lot of conversations at DPDC about that. So this year at our full day PD day, we actually have someone coming in that is totally geared towards 7 through 12 to help with that process so that teachers can know how to do that at that high school level. So what do PLCs look like? What do PLTs look like? How do we, what are all the steps to get there, and how can we make that happen at that upper level as well? So those PLT times and our early release days allow us as teachers to be able to do that work and create those intervention groups so that the other 95% of the time we have strong intervention plans, and that we always have data that we can go back to and create new groups and collaborate together to do that.
And then we also, for all the early outs and the early release days, our teachers are completing surveys as well. And so the DPDC they go through all of it, all the comments, everything. And so 95% of the time, things are great. Teachers are like, yes, this is exactly what we needed. And then in those situations where something went awry, then we are looking at it, we're having conversations with principals of saying like, okay, what happened here? How do we fix that for moving forward? So that's something that's part of their work every month as well.
I just want to validate your point, and I appreciate the fact that you're not too far away from being in the classroom, correct? And I think we can learn from some of the things that you share with us. And I truly believe we're moving forward with some of those, with that intentional RTI PLT process. So I just want to make sure I said that.
Any other questions or comments, concerns?
And I need a motion.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for hanging in there for.
Thank you, ladies.
I need a motion to approve the professional development plan review.
I make a motion to approve the professional development plan review.
Is that, do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. Okay, it passes. 8.01, this is a first reading for policy changes. So, did you have any?
I guess that could be deferred to me if anybody has.
Yeah.
It's an HR policy, but if anybody has questions, right now, if you read the reference copy, basically it's a new policy based on Senate Bill 1007 in 2018, and it's actually known as the whistleblower law. So.
Just adds protection to those, for that.
And it's a first reading.
Yeah. Okay. Resolution to extend the COVID leave. Is that?
Yes, I believe Ronnie Lewis, Dr. Lewis, who's not with us tonight, he shared some of this information with you, but I will briefly tell you just a quick rundown of what this looks like. So when COVID started last year, it was a mandate, I believe from the federal level and through the state, that said we're going to give 10 days of COVID leave.
Right.
When we got to January, we had to make a decision if we were going to continue it, and you all extended it 10. This summer, as we were talking about it and reflecting and talking with, and kind of where we're at with COVID at that point, and then with other school districts, we at that point, Rodney and the CEO team, and we at this point, and actually probably this point because we were talking about it before the meeting last time, that we weren't going to have a resolution or give COVID leave days this year for anybody. We're not looking at anything different between a vaccinated or unvaccinated person. I said it because I'm going to talk about a point in just a second. However, as we started this year and as we were looking at it, and quite honestly seeing some of the other school districts now coming and adding some of the resolution, adding some days, we were thinking what made sense for our staff to make sure we're supporting them, again, continuing through this pandemic. And full disclosure, we still thought, do we think 0? Do we think 10 as we did last year? And then what we decided on for a few reasons, when you look at our situation right now with mask to mask and the ability for everybody to be vaccinated, and as you see, we have no staff out, you really don't have to, you're really not going to be quarantined that much or at all. And the only piece that you could really get caught up in is you're unvaccinated. And so our thought was, do we really put 10 more days? That seemed a little excessive. But we also wanted to make sure we were supporting our teachers, because what we heard, and as I went around to staff members, we weren't able to be in person for our our whole kickoff, but I went trying to get to all the meetings just to say hello. And a couple of those meetings I heard from some of our staff members that say, hey, don't forget about some of our staff, well, a lot of our staff members that might have students in other county schools that do not have the mandated masks, and we still might have to be quarantined with our kids. I thought, that's interesting. Like, I want to think about that. So as we talked as a CO team, and Ronnie and I, we thought, okay, what makes sense, and not to give too many days, but also support, and we relied on 5. You heard tonight, there was a mention of maybe 7 or 9, but we felt like 5 was a really good number because you can test out and come back to school. Now that's 7 days, but again, within 7 days, it's 2 days of a weekend, and we feel like this is till December, and then you guys can vote again for next. So we were basically, and then last year, even the mandated piece was if you were helping if it was your spouse or you had to sit home with kids, we actually, the mandated resolution said it's 2/3 of your pay, or you can just take your own leave. We're saying 5 days flat, even for the people who need to be home with their kids, because that would help. That would basically guarantee everybody to have basically one quarantine that we would help them out with days. That's how we came to 5. No, but it's up to you all. You can obviously do 0, you can do 10, but we felt like at this point and where cases were going and just that we're still in this pandemic, that we thought that supporting them with 5 days really made sense. Yes, we would bring it back to you. We could do, if we felt like it needed to be more, we'll be smack dab in the middle of winter, maybe we need to do more. And then if you just simply said, I'm gonna do another 5 days, they would get another quarantine session. So we're pretty much feeling like you're gonna have at least one that people can say, hey, all intents and purposes, I can have one quarantine episode in my family and be covered. For the most part, if I test her out early. And we just thought that was a really good medium road for 5 days.
I think it's a good start, but I would be more comfortable with 7 days. I don't know about the rest of the board, but I feel like a full week, because if you're a teacher and you've got a child who gets quarantined, I mean, I know you can test out and get back, but I mean, the pieces really have to fall into place for that to work out to your benefit. So,
and just remember though too, we have sick days as well. I mean, it's not like
I know, but COVID, and they've really showed up and showed out, and like I'm comfortable with 7 days. If I don't know how anybody else feels about that.
I feel like maybe we should incentivize vaccination by not giving unvaccinated staff the leave. Not mandating that they take the vaccine, but you have a choice, and those choices carry consequences. And if you're not vaccinated and you get COVID, well,
I think the argument could be they could have children that are not of age to get vaccinated, though. And so if they have children that are quarantined and affects, if we're saying this applies for them to stay home with children and there's unvaccinated children in the home, then you're eliminating teachers with young children.
well, wouldn't they qualify for FMLA leave?
Say it again.
Wouldn't they qualify for FMLA?
Yeah, but they would take their own leave under FMLA.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So
unpaid,
this is
yeah,
like
all right.
essentially benefit.
It is, and to your point, and
Yeah.
if we want to do 7 or 10, we just thought 5 made sense for us. To your point, Ellen, we feel like, because I heard this well, actually I heard from my own wife from her district, like there's a lot of people who felt like you're giving excess days. Again, people can be vaccinated and unvaccinated, but you're basically giving extra days to people who are unvaccinated.
Right.
Because at this point, so what we're saying is we're giving you 5 days. Of course, you have your sick days as well. You're pretty much covered. I know it's quick, but you're pretty much covered for a semester, and then we'll go from there. So, but that's up to you all if you want to.
We're also well into this semester, so I mean, it's already.
I'm just more worried about people who, it doesn't matter if they're vaccinated or not. I'm more worried about teachers who are quarantined at home because of their family, you know? Like, that's kind of where my mind
And I
is.
think something we have to consider is, I mean, part of the quarantine guidelines it's reduced from 14 days to 7 days, correctly, if they're symptom-free and get a negative COVID test.
That's what I'm saying, it's all got to fall in
So it's
place.
very,
Yeah.
I mean, I know several young kids who have been quarantined because of lunch and in districts, and at day 5, they're testing negative, and you've got weekends wrapped into that. I mean, at the max, you're gonna be out 5 full days
At the max.
and a weekend.
I'd like to consider the motion as it is, and if you don't like the motion as is, then turn it down, and then we can bring it up again.
Okay.
But I would like to ask Charles if there is, from a risk manager's perspective, is there any reason why we shouldn't do this?
The only reason that you might consider not doing it is if you felt strongly about the point that Ellen made, making a distinction of vaccinated or not. If that's not a consideration, then I mean there is additional cost to the district for people that use those days. Because right now, if I were to be quarantined for the next week with COVID, I'd use my leave that I've been granted by the district. Every employee has new leave to begin the year beginning July 1. So even those people that through whatever circumstance causes them to use their leave, use it every year, they would have new leave. We have many people who have a fairly large leave bank. So what we're saying essentially is we're setting these 5 days or 7 or 10 out in front of that sick leave for anybody who is quarantined or has COVID. So there is a cost to that. I mean, it would be a guesstimate for us at this point. Right now, as Jason said, we have no one on the staff who is out because of COVID. So if that holds, you know, then there's very little risk. But I think at this point it would be difficult to guess what our exposure would be.
Well, the 5 days seems the middle, sort of a middle ground to be re-examined for the second semester. And we're already into our September, so would this be, has anyone had to use sick days for COVID leave? I don't know.
We
No.
have.
Oh, okay. Is this
Well, there's no
retroactive?
doubt 5 days is the middle. Like, I'm not going to argue that it's not down the middle. I'm just thinking of a full week to get your situation together and get back to work just seems to make sense to me. Yeah. Especially since we're not using a ton.
I just wanted to make sure you all knew that we really thought about this a lot. And there's a lot of school districts that are doing 0.
Sure, oh, I'm sure,
And
yeah.
there's some who are doing 10. And then I've heard some feedback back and forth. We just really thought this is a good start and we'll see what happens. And then we'll bring it back up again in January.
Because then if your child's positive or, you know, you can't return, then you tap into your sick after the 7 days and, because you'll have to be out the full 10 at that point.
Right.
So you'll miss.
I'm assuming that, I'm hoping it's better in January, but I'm assuming that we will have some type of COVID still happening. And then I'm assuming you would probably want to vote again. And if you do the 5, you're still looking at 10 days of extra days on top of what they already have to take care of COVID.
Oh, let me make sure. So you're saying if you don't use your 5 days this semester, they carry over in the next?
What I'm saying is we're doing 5 days this semester.
Okay.
It doesn't matter if you use them or not. If you vote again in January to re-up it, we'll do another 5 days.
Okay, but not a cumulative?
No.
Okay, just want to make sure.
5 days
You get
every
another
semester.
5. But if you use 5 now and you use 5 this spring,
Right.
that could give you a second time.
Thank you.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, okay.
We don't use it,
But you don't keep
it doesn't roll.
You don't use, you lose.
Do I have a?
So, no.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry. I don't want, I'm sure I'm going to create enemies by making this statement, but I'm going to make it anyway. We are, I think, an extremely generous school district. And we care very much for our teachers. And we, a number of times, have gone out of our way because we care. And I cannot help but think, what other profession is doing this for their employees? You understand what I'm trying to say?
Sure.
And it's not that I am being not empathetic or anything like that. It is that at some point in the line, we have to draw the line on how much we're going to do.
And we have to be fiscally responsible for it.
Yes. And so I am all for the idea, because I would love to give our staff everything. But I'm not sure that that is really why I'm here.
To me, the proposal that has been presented seems reasonable for this first semester.
We went, just so you know, for its worth, like Ronnie and I would go back and forth, like I'd come in and go, okay, 10. And then the next day I'd come back, no, 5. I mean, we really try to come up with that can make sense and really help our teachers. And to your point, Marita, we've done some unprecedented things to help
I know
our staff.
we have,
Last
and that's
year,
why
I mean, no school district I know of gave 2 days back at winter break.
Yes.
Like, that was amazing that you all did that. So we're doing good things for our staff. We want to make sure we take care of our staff. I feel like 5 is middle road, and I feel like it is a response, it's a responsible thing of saying, hey, we're trying to help our staff out, but not going overboard. End of story for me, so.
Do we have a motion? Okay. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, so that passes. We're ready for our district financial report. Oh, boy, he's taking his mask off.
So a couple of quick notes before I get to the numbers. Typically this month, we would have had employee benefit plan recommendations for you. However, 2 factors have intervened. One is just, this is a fairly early meeting, September 9th, here we are, and we're already having our meeting. So we didn't have a whole lot of time with the also squeezed back start of school. So that is going to be a continuous factor, I think, for us. But the other one is that we really have run extremely heavy, meaning expensively, in our health plan for the last several months. And so our consultants from CBIZ recommended that we somehow close a 12.5% gap starting in January. 12.5% increase would be unprecedented, a little bit higher than medical trend. And we have been, over the last 8 years, at about 4.2%. So significantly higher than what we've been doing on average. And we'll present more of this to you next month. But just, I wanted to set the table for you. That's why we didn't bring that to you this month. It gives the benefits committee more time to work, more time to get renewals on all the other ancillary lines of coverage, life, vision, dental, stop loss. But among the, one of the benefits of being a self-funded plan is that we reap the benefits in a good year. One of the negatives is in a bad year, we eat the expenses. So the self-insurance fund is dropping a little bit right now. We were more than $200,000 high on our medical plan, which is about a 50% overage in both June and July. And so if that trend were to continue, we would probably need more than 12.5%. So we think that's a little bit of an anomaly. We were already, prior to that, running at 100%, meaning the premium we're paying is about what we're paying out. We can sustain that as a self-funded group, but we would still have been looking at some kind of increase. So another one of the benefits of self-funding is that we control more of the levers. So we can not only choose to accept or reject a premium rate, but we also can change some of the plan design, change some of the ways that we do a lot of things. And so we have had a preliminary meeting with the benefits committee. I also invited all the presidents of the employee associations just so that they were informed in what we're talking about. We're probably looking at a combination of things. One will be some kind of premium increase, at least to the district, of somewhere in the neighborhood of 5%. But then we're probably looking at increasing deductibles for the first time in 4 years, increasing out-of-pocket maximum for the first time in 4 years. Out-of-pocket, by the way, is one of those that sounds scary because it is like your maximum exposure as an employee, but only about 5% of our people ever get the out-of-pocket maximum in any given year. And then we're also probably going to be recommending that the district move to paying for the base plan rather than paying for the premium plan. We would leave the premium plan in place, but as a buy-up option for folks. That's likely to cause the most disruption, and by that I mean ugly emails to me and probably to the boss too. You know, he gets them anytime any of us do. Because we have about 600 of our employees of 870, give or take, that are on that plan right now. So they would either have to begin making a contribution of somewhere around $50 to $60 a month, or they could opt for 100% paid, but on the base plan, which is also, I would say, a very strong plan. It's not a bad plan at all. So the way we left it with the Benefits Committee is that we are returning back, and I think it looks like it'll be September 21st, to consider final recommendations to you. They kind of narrowed it down to two options. One would cause us to have a planned spend down of about $200,000 in the self-insurance fund. The other would plan for us to be a break even. But I wanted to give the employees on the Benefits Committee some time to consider those two options before we brought things back to you. And we also will be, again, presenting dental, vision, life renewals for you as well. So, and again, the two more points and then I'll move on. One is 12.5% increase. That's the kind of the gap we've got in the plan right now. That's $1.25 million. That's real money, right? And so we plan to spend about $500,000 additional in insurance costs moving forward at the mid-year increase in the budget. But at that sizable number, that really impacts our ability to then consider what money do we have for raises. It all comes out of the same pot. And so, you know, the Benefits Committee's been looking at the option of moving to paying the base plan as a district for 4 or 5 years, and we have just never come to a point where we felt like it was necessary for us to do that. We feel like now is probably the time. But that doesn't mean that that goes down any easier for the people that are already having the premium plan paid for them. It just doesn't. And we specifically know we've got some folks that, because they are benefiting from being on the highest pay levels of our teacher salary schedule, they didn't get the step that the other teachers got this year. So it impacts them a little bit more than our other teachers. They are on the highest paid level, but still they would be impacted if they chose to stay on the premium plan. If they choose to go to the base plan, then they still have the plan paid 100%. That's not a firm recommendation from the committee. That's my reading of, that's my recommendation to them and my reading of the tea leaves from our initial discussion. But like I say, we'll bring that committee back together in a couple of weeks, or actually I guess 10 days, and then we'll formulate recommendations that you will then get to weigh in on next month. And that's still for a 1/1 renewal, January 1 of 22 renewal. Questions about that? Okay. Secondly, I just wanted to give you a very quick update on bond issue. You'll see it when we get to the financial report, but we are moving ahead with a number of projects. The LED lighting project is continuing, but is still slowed because of waiting on supplies. That still is, we still are seeing some supply chain issues. The beauty, though, of that process is they're working second shift. Teachers and students go home anyway, and so it doesn't really matter if that project lags a little bit. We just move room by room, and then they have to clean up, you know, in the morning before teachers come in. But we are getting ready to, again, have a lighting bid for the remaining buildings for LED lighting, interior and exterior, for the Lewis and Clark HVAC project. Those will both go out within the next month. So before Christmas time, we'll have those bids back to you to consider approval. Monroe, renovation. I think I mentioned last month, there'll be a 2-summer, basically 18-month kind of process because we obviously need to keep the building in service during the renovations there. But we should have that project out to bid before Christmas break and for your approval soon thereafter. The same with the Success Campus, and that the Success would just be a 1-summer renovation. But we're moving forward on all those projects pretty quickly. Okay, so Chris, the other one, the one that says 08-2021 board report is the one I'd like to look at. This shows our balances and is again broken out in a variety of ways. So the self-insurance fund, you see, this is, we show at the beginning balance of 2.6 million, ending at 1.7, but that's a little bit of a misnomer because you'll notice we have no revenues to that fund. We only paid expenses out. So we are actually owed about $1.2 million to ourselves. So it's sitting in the general fund. It just hasn't been transferred into the self-insurance fund yet. And then I wanted to call your attention to the bond issue. The same thing is true there. You'll see the bottom line, we've spent $5.2 million of our bond issue proceeds. That money is in our MOSIP account, but it has not been credited in budget account at this point. So that actually throws off the total ending fund balance by that 5.2 million. So we actually are at 27.8 million in ending fund balance for the month because of that lack of the transfer in the bond accounts. The only other things that I'd highlight are we still continue to get a little local revenue. Some of that is delinquent taxes, but most of that is state sales tax. Federal revenue, you see there's not much on that line either, but this month, Nidra Woolfolk, our federal program specialist, is getting ready to ask for reimbursement for our summer school expenses and our transportation summer school expenses from the ESSER funds that are available to us. So you'll see a little bit more federal money jump into that line next month. And then, of course, our big dollars are always in employee salary and benefits, and you see we're back up to a more normal expenditure because this reflects the 10-month employees back at work on the August line. So that's all I have to share unless you've got questions.
No questions? All right. I'm getting used to the new look, the new format, but, okay. Well, do I have a motion to approve the district financial report?
I move to approve the district financial report as presented.
Can I have a second? All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? All right. Financial report passes. Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Do I have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.